Good day to you all. It is a pleasure to be with you once again to discuss the state of the world. I wish I could offer reassurance, but honesty compels me otherwise. We are living through a period of profound transformation, one in which the foundations of the international system are shifting beneath our feet. The global order that emerged after 1945 is fraying, and the consequences of that unraveling will define this century. History rarely announces such moments politely. It announces them through confusion, decay, and crisis. At the center of this storm stands the United States, the reigning hegemon, the so-called indispensable nation. Yet when we look closely at America today, we do not see a state preparing itself for the great struggles ahead. We do not see a disciplined Leviathan strengthening its institutions, rebuilding its industry, or unifying its people. Instead, we see a spectacle. We see a political class consumed by scandal, obsession, and internal warfare. We see a governing elite distracted by the trivial while strategic dangers accumulate. The wolves are not merely at the door, they are already inside the house, gnawing at the foundations. Today, I want to speak about the recent revelations surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein files and former President Donald Trump. But I do not want to address them as gossip or moral theater. I want to examine them through the lens of realism, because what is unfolding in Washington is not simply a scandal, it is a symptom of institutional decay. In the brutal logic of great power politics, when a hegemon begins to rot from within, war is rarely far behind. We have learned that the Department of Justice has released yet another tranche of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, numbering in the thousands. Under normal circumstances, the private sins of elites would be irrelevant to international politics. States do not rise or fall because leaders are immoral. They rise or fall because institutions fail. This case is different precisely because it reveals paralysis, incompetence, and vulnerability at the highest levels of the American state. According to the documents, Donald Trump's name appears hundreds of times. The Justice Department insists this carries no criminal implication. Perhaps that is true, but realism is not about courtroom guilt. It is about power, perception, and leverage. Reports of flight logs, communications, and associations raise a more dangerous question. Who knows what, and who can use it? In international politics, blackmail is a weapon. Compromise is currency. If senior American political figures are entangled in networks that could expose them to coercion, then American power itself is weakened. Do we really believe Russian or Chinese intelligence services are ignoring this information? Do we see it as tabloid entertainment? Of course not. They see it as a vulnerability assessment. They see an elite class that may be subject to pressure, manipulation, or exposure. That is how adversaries think. Power abhors weakness, and weakness invites exploitation. Worse still is the sheer incompetence on display. The Department of Justice, an institution entrusted with safeguarding the Republic, has demonstrated an alarming inability to manage even basic administrative tasks. Documents intended to be redacted were easily unmasked. Sensitive names were revealed through rudimentary errors. This is not a minor embarrassment. It is evidence of institutional degradation. If a government cannot competently handle document releases, how can it manage cyber war, supply chains, or escalation control in a major conflict? The administrative state is the backbone of national power. When that backbone fractures, military strength becomes irrelevant. Armies do not function without logistics. Strategy collapses without coordination. What we are witnessing is not a confident superpower, but a state at war with itself. The Justice Department's behavior has been erratic and contradictory. On one hand, it releases material that damages reputations. On the other, it dismisses the same revelations as sensationalized. This suggests not impartial justice, but factional conflict. Institutions appear to be used as tools in an internal struggle among elites. That is a hallmark of imperial decline. When institutions cease to serve the state and instead serve factions, legitimacy erodes rapidly.
Consider the bizarre episode involving a handwritten letter allegedly written by Epstein after his death. Within hours, authorities alternated between investigation and dismissal. Such haste does not signal confidence, it signals panic. It suggests a system desperate to control narratives rather than uncover truth. In a healthy state, truth strengthens authority. In a decaying one, truth becomes dangerous. Why should ordinary Americans care? Why should a factory worker, a teacher, or a truck driver pay attention? Because while Washington obsesses over scandal management, the international system is entering a phase of maximum danger. Domestic dysfunction does not stay domestic. It distorts strategy, weakens deterrence, and invites challenge. Donald Trump sits at the center of this drama, not because of personal virtue or vice, but because he represents a rupture. He challenges the liberal internationalist consensus that has guided American policy since the Cold War. He does not view the world as a moral project, he views it as a competitive arena. That instinct, however crude, threatens an establishment built on intervention, expansion, and ideological certainty. For decades, the United States has pursued a strategy of global transformation. It expanded NATO, attempted to remake societies, and treated its dominance as permanent. The cost has been enormous. Trillions spent abroad while infrastructure decays at home, industrial capacity hollowed out, social cohesion eroded. Trump's appeal lies in his recognition, shared by many Americans, that this strategy has failed. The fixation on linking Trump to every scandal is therefore not merely about accountability, it is about power. It is about preventing a fundamental rethinking of American strategy. If justice were truly blind, many more powerful figures would face scrutiny. Instead, legal mechanisms increasingly appear as weapons in a political civil war. This is dangerous territory. When law becomes a tool for eliminating rivals, the republic is already in crisis. Nowhere are the consequences of this dysfunction clearer than in Ukraine. For years, Western leaders encouraged Ukraine to believe it could join NATO, armed it, trained it, and pushed it into confrontation with a nuclear-armed great power. Russia made its red lines clear. They were ignored. The result has been catastrophic. Ukraine is devastated. Its population is shattered. Its economy lies in ruins. The United States, meanwhile, is struggling to sustain the war effort. Industrial capacity cannot keep pace, stockpiles are depleted, political divisions paralyze decision-making. Russia, by contrast, treats the conflict as existential. That difference in resolve matters more than rhetoric. Wars are not won by moral language, they're won by production, endurance, and clarity of purpose. While Washington is consumed by internal scandals, Beijing is watching carefully. Chinese leaders measure legitimacy through competence. They see chaos, polarization, and paralysis. They see a state unable to secure its borders or manage its institutions. They see opportunity. China has expanded its navy, modernized its nuclear forces, and secured energy supplies. It is building alternative financial structures and strengthening ties across the global south. The Taiwan Strait grows more volatile by the year. And what occupies American attention? Scandal cycles and legal warfare. Empires rarely fall because they are defeated outright. They fall because their elites lose discipline, their institutions decay, and their people lose faith. This pattern repeats throughout history. Rome, Spain, Britain all faced moments when internal rot preceded external collapse. The United States is not exempt from historical law. Americans feel this decline instinctively. They see rising prices, disorder, and insecurity. They see resources sent abroad while domestic needs go unmet. They sense betrayal. Trump channels that anger, which is why he provokes such fear among elites. Weaponizing justice against political opponents may achieve short-term victories, but it destroys legitimacy. A state that loses legitimacy cannot command sacrifice. Without sacrifice, it cannot fight major wars. The danger is compounded by nuclear weapons. The margin for error is vanishingly small.
Russian leaders have openly stated their thresholds. Western leaders speak recklessly of escalation. This is not strength, it is negligence. A direct conflict between nuclear powers would not be limited, it would shatter global civilization. Economically, the warning signs are everywhere. Massive debt, financial fragility, and elite capital flight suggest preparation for turbulence. Money is cautious because it senses instability. Empires in decline always assume they can print, borrow, and bluff their way through crisis. Eventually, reality intervenes. The Epstein files, then, are both distraction and revelation. They distract the public while revealing elite fragility.